Hey, it's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today on the show, we got our good friend Leo from BrightDigit on the show. How you doing today, Leo?
Doing fantastic. How are you, Jerry?
I'm doing great. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit more as we go, but you're in your home studio right now?
Yes, you can call it that, I guess. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
where I record my podcast and I do videos, typically for like conferences or YouTube or something like that in my space.
Well, you look great and you sound great. So I'm glad you
Thank
got a
you.
studio. Um, so for those of us or those out there who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about Leo and tell us a little bit about Bright Digits and all your projects?
hmm Yeah, so I've been running BrightDigit for almost 10 years now. I primarily do contract consulting, freelance work in the Apple space. I build apps for the iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, and kind of have a expertise in Swift and Swift development. That's kind of my forte.
Are most of those projects like you're trying to build something for another software company, or are you building for like a solution for a enterprise?
All sorts of companies, small companies, large companies, medium-sized companies. Could be anything from staff augmentation to they need an expert who knows the Apple space pretty well and how to do Swift. I usually help out. So I've done stuff for Jackson National, startups, you name it. I've helped build their app.
Yeah. So everyone always does this to me. I ask them to tell about themselves and their projects or their company, but they skip over the themselves. So I'm going to come back to that for a second. Where
Okay.
where was where was Leo born and raised?
Right here in Lansing, Michigan. So I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and got married here. Live here with my wife Betsy, and we have five adorable kids.
So where'd you go to high school?
Lansing Catholic High School.
All right. It was it Lansing Catholic Central or
Yeah,
is that yeah
It was. It,
yeah
it was LCC, right? Because that's not
yeah.
confusing.
So did they change the name? I guess I didn't even know that.
Yeah, sometime in the last 20 years since I graduated, they changed the name. I don't know
I
why.
graduated from Eastern about 30 years ago. Or wait, no, more than that, almost 40 years now. Shit. Um, and um,
Time flies.
we always, that was kind of a little, rival, not with sports so much, but as just the parties and all of the stuff, I'm sure.
Yep.
Probably changed from the 80s to the 90s to the now.
Right,
Or
right.
maybe
I think
not.
there's a
I don't
lot of
know.
parties right now, maybe.
Yeah. So, what's something? Is there anything you can share with us, like with Bright Digit? And I'm going to go back and forth between you and your company because I haven't forgot about those adorable kids. Um, and what's a? Is there a project you can tell us about that you're working on right now that's not
Sure.
confidential?
Yeah. So one project that's gotten a lot of interest, especially since Halloween, was my app HeartTwitch. It's an app I built for the Apple Watch, for streaming. So something like this, where you can share the heart rate from your Apple Watch on a live stream. And the reason I say it's gained popularity since Halloween, is a lot of horror streamers on Twitch who play like horror first person shooters, that kind of stuff, like to use it quite a bit. So they can just have an overlay of their heart rate as they're playing some scary video game, essentially.
Do they try to? What do they do? I mean, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah,
Are they looking for spikes? Are they trying to keep calm and show how, you know, badass they are or
I think
something?
they're just showing like their reactions. I think that's what it comes down to, is they want to show people how their heart rate races during certain levels or during certain boss fights or whatever, and they want to share that with their audience. And like that's really what heart twitch is really all about. It's at hearttwitch.app, and it's free right now, where you just sign up and then you link up your Apple Watch, and then you can share your heart rate right on the screen.
And then you get a unique URL or something that you
I
can
don't have that
share
right
or
now. You just share your web browser screen right now, but that's probably one
oh,
of the
okay.
next big features, is sharing the just posting the URL in your streaming software.
Okay. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to do a feature scope on you or anything like
No,
that.
a lot of people ask for that, so it's not at all feature scope. It's definitely on my radar.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Has anybody approached you about different applications? Because there seems like there could be a lot of, like you get people thinking about the correlations of what they're doing
yeah.
online and their heart rate at that time. If I was filling out an application for a grant, I might want to know when it's time to
Record
stand
your
up
heart
and
rate for that. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean, I've had a few people who are interested, like in using something like that. For instance, an exercise gym. Back, when people used to go to gyms, you'd want to broadcast your heart rate along with other people and like share that, like in a TV screen, kind of like a scoreboard of some sort. So yeah,
yeah.
there's definitely been thoughts about that, and and just how that technology works.
That's awesome. So I mentioned adorable kids, and everyone will get interested in that. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your kids? Because Bright Digits and your kids, they all kind of there's a story
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah. So 10 years ago, my wife and I decided, well, two things: a, start a company, and B, we started working on filling in the paperwork for adoption, and we've adopted four kids over from, gosh, 2013 to 2018. Um, so yeah, our four oldest are adopted, and then our youngest, who just turned four, um, is our one birth kid, a surprise birth kid. So um, yeah, that's we we have four adopted kids, and they're all adorable, of course, and rambunctious. You've seen them around, and curious kids. So, uh, by the way, if you hear anything in the background, it's probably them coming home from school. So, just FYI, if you hear that at some point, the noise volume in the background go up, you'll know what that is.
They can come on screen anytime they want. So the oldest one, how old is she now? Or she?
She, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
she is 11. So, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, oldest is 11, 11, 9, 7, 5, 4. So those are the ages. So we still have two
Sweet.
more that are home most of the time, and still don't, go to school yet. And then, yeah, first grader and fourth grader and what is that, sixth grader. So, yeah.
Yeah. So a surprise birth. We don't need to get into that, but
Well, we had a 5 month old, and who our our youngest adopted moved in when she was 2 days old, and then she was 5 months old when we found out my wife was pregnant, and it was like kind of crazy because we never thought that something like that would happen, but it's been a pretty fun adventure, I would say. All these kids, especially during the
yeah.
holidays right now.
And you just decided, let's just do everything at once, start a business and start adopting kids.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think like it, we're just kind of in a lull with our work. We just come home. We work all day, come home, and work all day, come home, and we really wanted to have a big family and things like that. And it was like, you know, we all in our life kind of like postponed for that perfect time to do something. And for us, it was just like, what are we going to do? These things that we want to do, let's just do it now. So yeah, we decided to jump right in and move forward with it. And I think it was probably one of the best decisions we've made in our life.
Well, do you think did it make the starting the company easier or more difficult, or it just changed the dynamics?
I think the other way around. I think starting the company made it easier to do to adopt and do foster care because we had a lot more flexible schedules, and we saved up cash when we were doing our full time work, so that helped as well. So we had the flexibility in our schedule to like do foster care, take the kids to their parental visits and things like that because all our kids we they came through foster care first. So that was definitely a big part of the journey is that and having the flexibility of running my own business and not dealing with an employer or anything like that helped a lot for both of us.
Yeah, that's another good reason to be an entrepreneur, even though I'm sure it was still tons of work and you were working at midnight sometimes.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
that flexibility is that's golden to me.
Yeah, that it's to me it's like worth whatever financial risk or financial drawbacks that came in those first few years. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah. And you guys are doing great. I mean, every time I talk to you, you're busy. You're doing something cool. You've got new things on the horizon. You seem to be doing a really good job with Feast and Famine these days, huh?
Yeah, it took a lot for me to learn how to deal with that. Always selling, like, that's kind of my thing, and getting my name out there. Starting this podcast, I did. Even though I'm not traveling this year, I did like 10 conference talks this year, all from my wonderful office here, recording them and posting them or doing them live like this. I just take every opportunity I can to sell. And I don't mean like, you should call me 1-800 or and I'll provide you a Swift app in 5 days or you get your money back. I don't mean like that kind of selling, but more just like, it's not selling in the sense of like just pay me and I'll give you a service, but more like helping folks, providing advice, showing them how to do things, tutorials, and getting my name out there, because I think that's a big part of the entrepreneurial journey, is being able to help others first before you even think about like somebody paying you to do work for them.
That's a gem of advice right there. It's if you're not helping somebody solve a problem that's real to them, you're probably going to have a lot of struggles.
Yeah, exactly. And always
So
doing it. So like that's the thing, is like, even when I'm doing contract work, I need to keep my name out there and helping folks. I can't, or just I have to deal with the feast and famine in that case.
yeah, the you're walking me through the funnel. I'm just molasses right now. So I follow you on Twitter. I read your Twitter feed. I get your newsletter. I go to your website once in a while. I've seen your podcast or heard your podcast. Is it video too?
No, nope.
Yeah,
Empower Apps is
just
only it's only
yeah.
audio at this point. I don't want. Speaking of what we were talking about beforehand, I don't want to ever have to deal with the risk of a live recording and then also internet interruptions. So no, I just do audio and it's edited. So I take the safe route right now.
I've accepted that I'm foolish and an idiot for doing it this way.
Hey,
So
I think this was more fun. I'll give you that.
it changes the dynamic a little bit because we've recorded I think 3 of the shows before because it was conflict in a schedule, and I love the liveness because we don't know if one of your kids is going to run or not run but open that door behind you and pop in, and I'll get
It's
to say
luck.
hey.
It's luck. No, it's
Oh,
good.
okay. So
No,
I guess
it's
we
funny
do
we're
know.
talking about live and recorded. Like, um, you know, it's interesting. Speaking at all these conferences, like some organizers are very insistent on like going the live route, which I'm like, okay, I could do that. Like, I don't mind because I don't have to edit, right? Like, I don't mind doing it, but doing it prepared, it's more work and less work in a way, because now I have to like edit the video, but I almost prefer it that way because it's a little bit more polished. I could do all sorts of stuff with an edited presentation video that I can't do on
Yeah.
a live video. So like, yeah, there's a balance there. I can understand for both attendee and the presenter as well.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head on what I really like about it is I don't have to do any pre-production or
Yeah,
post-production. I just go
yeah, yeah,
and then it's
totally.
done.
Yeah, I understand completely.
Uh, and I did have an epiphany while we were talking that every damn day itself, I've got this feast or famine thing because I'm constantly recruiting because I'm trying to fill every day for 365 days. And I'm constantly trying to work on it. So I've got to do that both. And we might have used a phrase that not everybody's familiar with. Do you want to explain feast or famine, or can I? Or do you want me to?
No, I mean, let me try. I will try my
Yes,
best.
please, please.
But like, one of the issues is you have to keep like, there'll be times you'll get a contract, right? And they'll be doing fantastic, but no contract is going to last forever. So then you don't have the time while you're doing that work to sell yourself. So then once that contract is over, you have no money coming in, you have no cash flow. So then you have to start selling yourself, which means that famine, in a sense, where you don't have any cash coming in until you can sell again and go back to work. And so that's, I think, kind of where the phrase feast and famine is. When you're doing the work and getting paid, you're making a ton of money, but then when you're not, like, no cash flow comes in. So you have to figure out how to work with that. And, part of that is selling yourself all the time, or, just kind of taking that feast and famine and kind of, how do I put it, averaging, I guess, like, the
Yeah.
income. There's a lot of ways you can work with it, but you do have to deal with it, as opposed to, like, a typical full-time job where you're just working all the time and making money all the time.
Yeah. It can be one of the big failures for companies, and it's a tough struggle to get that balance right.
Right, exactly.
So, when we were prepping for the show, I mentioned that you're a hero, and that is because you're a parent with kids that are, they're going to school now, but they weren't always going to school. You've got these kids that are, we've got to keep our nation continuing with their education. We have to keep our generations that are following us up to speed, because if we don't, we're going to set us back from, a lot of gains that we've made in the past decades. And I want to reiterate that on air. I really admire all of the parents, all of the teachers, and all of the students for doing such a great job at keeping this together and doing the best that they can. And yeah, you're a hero for that reason, if nothing else.
Well, I'm really happy with their teachers and how understanding they've been with everything, and it's really worked out well this year. I'm really happy with the school and how they've done stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's helped a lot for parents like us.
Yeah. Well, you guys are great. So I want to get ready for the next question, but I'm going to ask you something else first, real quick. What would you say your mission is? And that could be a Leo and everything mission, or it could be BrightDigit's mission. What do you think your mission is?
Well, what I want to do is build really cool stuff. Like, that's what I like to do, and making money is just a benefit of that. Well, not a benefit of it. It's what keeps the lifeblood going, right? So, like, I really like to build cool stuff, but also part of it is, like, going back to the having kids and running a company. Like, I want my kids to be able, when they grow up, to be, like, a little bit more independent and not just get a quote-unquote job. Like, I want them to be able to sell themselves as well, and being able to do that. So, like, I guess that's part of my mission, is, like, being able to pass that down to my kids, to not just expect, some job in the job market that'll pay them to do something every day, but, like, being able to sell yourself, and think of it not just in terms of time times hourly rate or whatever it is.
Yeah. So is there something you do every damn day that pushes that mission forward?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it's just finding work-life balance. I know that that's kind of a stupid phrase in a lot of ways, but, like, being able to just, like, take a break every so often, hang out with the kids when they're home, or just play video games, read a book, read a prayer of some sort, and just have some quiet time. I think that's really helpful. And, like, spending time with my wife, just talking about stuff and going out to lunch. Well, not out to lunch, picking up lunch.
Yeah.
2020 way to do it. But I think that's a big part of it for me, that keeps me going. I used to do more exercise. I've actually switched over to doing a lot more fasting as a way to, like, lose weight, because what I found myself doing is I'll go for a run and then I'll pig out when I get home, and that doesn't help with the weight. So I've actually been doing a lot less working out and more fasting. So I would say exercise is really helpful, and I probably should get back into that. But so yeah. That's what keeps me going every day.
I love that answer. Why'd you say that the work-life balance is a bad term? I
It has the
I
word
have an
balance.
idea, but yeah,
Okay, well,
yeah,
it has the word balance in it, right? So like somehow there's a numerical value of like what
yeah,
X number of hours you need to put in work and what X number of hours you need to put into quote unquote life, whatever the heck that is. But I think like what I mean specifically is like don't get yourself sucked in by either that you ignore the other, and I think that's what's more important. And realizing that there's a risk by getting yourself sucked into work too much, that you people kind of think, oh, I'll just work for 16 hours and like the quality of work will be consistent. It's like, no, not really. It's not consistent after like maybe 8 hours or so. So just be careful of that because you'll get burnt out and like you can hurt yourself and, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. And it's going to be hard to get out of that pit that you've dug yourself. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah. It makes a
Okay.
lot of sense.
Okay.
And that, yeah, that pit does. You never know when to stop digging when you're in that pit either.
Right, right. Because you can be passionate about what you do, like, and or you could just be like, desperate. And it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah. So we daisy chain the shows together every day. So yesterday on the show we had Julia Miller, who runs Punks with Lunch Lansing, who feeds the homeless, gives
Oh,
out harm
nice.
reduction supplies, stuff like that.
Okay.
And she will pass you a question like you're going to pass the next guest a question. Her
Okay.
question for you is, what do you want your tombstone to say?
So I'm gonna kind of pass on this one because I don't. I want a simple tombstone, just my name with when I was born and when I die. Like I don't want any phrases. I don't want it to be super fancy. Um, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to pick things for funerals. And it's like really awkward and strange how they try to upsell you on stuff. So
Yeah.
like in my experience, like when you ask about the tombstone, my thought is like I just want simplicity. I don't want, some dumb phrase or anything like that. I don't know if that's what she was looking for when she asked that question, but that's kind of my answer to it. Is I want something simple when I'm
Well,
gone.
here on Every Damn Day, just like at the Fledge, we're radically inclusive, so you don't have a wrong answer. And I think it's a great answer because what they'll charge you $200 a letter on your tombstone if you're not careful, right?
Right, right.
I
Oh, and
mean,
by
not
the
that
way,
much, but
extra $50, you get like gold embroiderment. Like it's really a weird business. No offense
yeah.
to people who work in the funeral industry, but it's like it's still a bit salesy in a lot of ways.
So, man, I could talk for a million years right now about some things that are rattling through my head. But I'll go on to who's on the show tomorrow. We have Madeline Smith. She's a young entrepreneur. It's like one of her first ventures. She's a skateboarder. She came on and won 99 Problems, but a pitch ain't one, which is Friday at 9 a.m., everyone. Um, what question would you like to ask? Madeline's trying to build an indoor skate park.
Okay.
So, what would you like to ask her?
Okay. So when we start a business, we always think to ourselves about the risks involved. Like how bad can it get? If something goes wrong, like could you go bankrupt and get sued and all this stuff? Like especially the way people are and how we think. What I want to ask her is, have you thought about the best case scenario? Because a lot of times when we're starting a business, we we don't think about what that success actually means and whether we're ready for it and whether that's what's going to actually make us happy. So that's what I would ask Madeline. I would ask, have you thought about the best case scenario and how you'll handle that? Make
I
sense?
love, yeah, it does make sense. I
Okay.
love the question and I love your explanation about it too. Um, because usually that we forget about and we
Right.
don't, that takes away dreams, it takes away hope, it takes away future. But the other thing I think is, even if you're at the best, are you mitigating that risk? Kind of, maybe the best is not good for her, maybe the
Right.
best is
Right.
not. And I really like how you're looking at that. So
Yeah.
we'll
There
see
was
how
a
she answers.
there
Oh,
was a
go ahead.
really good sorry, there was a really good TED talk. I forgot where it was, but they talk about how like we all have this thing that we're passionate about in the abstract, and we like to think about it, but then like we don't think about the day-to-day activities involved with maintaining whatever business that we want to do. Like with cooking, for instance, we think about, oh, I love cooking, da da da. I'd love to have my own kitchen and do this and cook that and make these great meals. So, like, have you thought about how you're going to deal with a health inspector? Did you think about accounting? Do you have a lawyer? Do you have like all the humdrum stuff about a business that you're going to have to think about as a business owner that a lot of times we don't want to think about? So there's that too with a business too, is like you
Yeah.
have to think about that stuff and how you're going to deal with it one way or another. So yeah, I was just sorry thinking about that.
So it's not just being the boss and bossing people around.
Right, or doing the craft that you love to do. There's like the business
Yeah.
and legal stuff and like all the paperwork and all that crap
Yeah.
that you have to deal with as well. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So I always ask the guest whatever question they're asking the next guest, I'm going to ask you that same question. Have you thought about, the best case scenario, and what's that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like flexibility. Like that to me is part of the reason why I started my own business, besides like the fact that I'm passionate about what I do. And so like one of my things is like limiting how big I am, like with the fact that I am, I'm a dad. My wife would, I think, would go crazy if I spent all my time with my business and not with my family. So I have to limit myself and the growth of my company accordingly, because I love my family and this is what I want to do. So like best case scenario for the business would be like, I continue to grow, I hire employees and all that stuff, and I'm not at a point where I want to do that. And so like I've thought about, okay, the growth of BrightDigit, what does that mean? And like it's not so much growth about BrightDigit as much as it is about like being able to be flexible and increase my financial independence and that increase my freedom, so to speak. And I think that's what's really important. So like that's I've limited my goals essentially in order to keep in step with my lifestyle, and I've it's been a healthy relationship.
It's everything you're talking about today has been very wise, Leo. I'm so happy that we were able to, connect and get on the show. I'm so happy that I met you what seems like so many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know.
I
Have
don't
we
know.
known
It's
each
been a
other
long time.
forever? Yeah. I feel
Five
like I known
years.
you forever.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while. Well,
Yeah.
this whole year feels like forever, right? So it's like
Yeah.
a
It
different
feels like
decade.
Groundhog Day, man. I got the same chores. I'm doing the same thing.
Every damn
And
day
it's,
too.
yeah, every damn day. Ah. So, again, thank you for coming on the show. You're very
Thank you for
wise.
having me.
You're a hero to me and to, I think everybody is going to look at the parents and the teachers and the students as heroes. And as we start to wrap up, I got a surprise one question for you. And
Sure.
that is, would you mind taking us out with something? And that could be a song, it could be deuces, it could be advice, it could be anything you want. But can you take us out with something?
Okay. Oh, man, that is a surprise. Like, yeah, like a piece of advice. I feel like I already kind of did.
You can do it again, reiterate it, drive it home.
Yeah, reiterate it. Yeah, just like when you have a plan about or something you're passionate about that you want to do, don't just think about the things that you enjoy about that project, but also about like the paperwork and cleanup and the responsibility that it involves before you jump into something. And then like break it down, and it won't become so overwhelming. I think that's a big part of it as well. So
Yeah. Rivers are made by drops of water.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I love that I know you, Leo. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for doing what you do, and much love to you and your family.
Thank you, Jerry. It was great to hear from you and see you.
See